Picture this, you've just stepped off the plane at Charles de Gaulle Airport. Your mind is filled with dreams of elegant Louis Vuitton advertisements, endless cafe terraces, and a work-life balance that makes American capitalism look like a prison sentence. You believe you're entering a wealthy, powerful nation. But the reality, it's completely different here. Walking into a country that's quietly, gradually becoming poorer. A place where the middle class is vanishing. Where the brightest young minds are fleeing abroad, and where the government has drowned itself in so much debt that even Italy looks financially responsible by comparison. The croissants are still excellent, but the economy, that's terrifying. Let's explore 7 critical facts about France that will absolutely shock you. First reality. The salary compression trap. Let's play a game. Imagine you're a young French professional. You did everything right. Attended difficult preparatory classes. Earned your master's degree. Learned good English. You land a decent job in Lyon or Bordeaux. Your first paycheck arrives and you're stunned. 940 euros. That's it. And this is the 2024 median salary. Meaning half the population earns even less than this. Now think about your friend who never went to college. Maybe they work as a cashier, cleaner, or simple waiter. They're on minimum wage, which nets around 1400 euros in 2024. See the problem. The difference is only 450 euros. In America, there's a massive gap between minimum wage and median earners. In France, the gap is so tiny that people question why they should even bother working harder. Economists call this smicardization, a bizarre process where all salaries compress into sameness. Today, 17% of French workers are on minimum wage, with millions more hovering just above it. Imagine the psychological toll. You study for 5 years, manage teams, and your salary, barely more than the person stocking shelves. This is a motivation killer, a demotivation, HELLSCAPE. And where do these 940 euros take you in life? In Paris, a small studio apartment where you can touch the fridge from your bed costs 1200 to 1500 euros. Monthly rent. Living in Paris on a median salary is mathematically impossible unless you have roommates or wealthy parents. You're not living in Paris, you're just camping there. Second reality. The museum economy and death of manufacturing. Drive 2 hours from Paris's luxury boutiques, and you enter a completely different world. This is France's Rust Belt, where the ghosts of industry live. We have this image of France as an industrial powerhouse. Airbus, nuclear plants, high-speed trains. Yes, these exist. But they are remnants of a glorious past, not indicators of present strength. The truth, France doesn't make things anymore. Manufacturing is now just 10% of GDP. In Germany, it's almost double. France shut down factories so fast that all of Europe was shocked. Why? Because for 40 years, French policymakers thought factories were old-fashioned. They wanted France to become a nation of consultants, designers, and luxury brand managers. They bet everything on tourism. France became the world's most visited destination. But you can't build a superpower on waiters and tour guide. When factories leave, middle-class blue-collar jobs disappear. Jobs move to Poland and China. Small towns die. Bakeries close. Schools shrink. Doctors retire without replacements. This is the rage you see in the news. Yellow vest protests, burning toll booths. People aren't violent because they hate Macron. They're angry because they live in these dying towns where only a supermarket and Amazon warehouse remain. Paris sells $3,000 handbags to American tourists while the rest of the country fights over crumbs. During COVID, France realized in panic that it couldn't even manufacture paracetamol. The country that discovered vaccines had to beg India and China for basic painkillers. This is the reality of a nation that forgot how to build. Quick pause. If you're realizing your dream of moving to a chateau needs a budget adjustment, hit that subscribe button. We explore the dark side of the global economy every week. Drop a comment. Would you rather earn $5,000 in a country with no healthcare or 1,500 euros where it's free? I'm genuinely curious. Third reality. The debt bomb nobody discusses. Everyone hears about America's debt crisis, but America has a printing press and the world's reserve currency. Part France. France uses the euro. It cannot print its way out of trouble. In 2024, France's public debt hit 113% of GDP. European Union rules say you should keep debt under 60%. France hasn't seen 60% since the internet was invented. Here's a terrifying fact. France hasn't passed a balanced government budget since 1974, 50 years. Every single year, the government spends more than it earns. Left-wing, right-wing, centrist, everyone shares this addiction. Where does the money go? Not infrastructure. Bridges are crumbling. Not military. They rely on NATO. It goes to social protection. France spends a staggering 32 to 34% of GDP on social spending, the highest in the world, higher than Sweden, higher than Denmark. This is a welfare state on steroids. Safety nets are good. Nobody dying from lack of insulin is excellent. But this level of spending is mathematically unsustainable when your economy isn't growing. You're running a Rolls-Royce welfare state with a Peugeot economy. In 2024, interest payments, just the interest on debt, exceeded the education budget. Understand this. France spends more paying interest on past mistakes than educating its future generation. If that doesn't scream poorer than you think, what does? Fourth reality, the tax hellscape. If France is world champion at anything better than beating Brazil at football, it's taxation. Remember that 1740 euro salary. A financial murder scene happens before that money reaches your account. Here's an example. A company wants to spend 60,000 euros annually on you. First, the government takes employer contributions. Your gross salary drops to 43,000 euros. But you don't get 43,000. Now, employee contributions disappear. Social security, retirement, unemployment. You're down to 33,000 euros. But we're still not done. Now you pay income tax. By the time you can buy groceries, approximately 50% of what your employer spent on you has vanished to the government. France has the OECD highest tax burden. 45 to 48% of GDP goes to taxes annually. This creates a suicidal cycle. Companies can't pay higher net salaries because taxes are enormous. Employees have nothing to spend. The economy stagnates. The government imposes more taxes. It's a boa constrictor slowly choking you to death. And if you want to get rich, wealth is a sin in France. There was a solidarity tax on wealth that taxed you just for having assets. Thousands of millionaires fled. The message is clear. Success is viewed with suspicion. Apologize and give us half. Fifth reality, retirement, a Ponzi scheme. Remember 2023, Paris was burning. Garbage piled on streets. Tat riot. Police firing tear gas. Why? The government proposed raising retirement age from 62 to 60-4. The world thought this was insanity. Germany's retirement age heads toward 60-7. UK and US are similar. But in France, asking people to work 2 more years felt like a human rights violation. But what's the reality? The French pension system is a demographic Ponzi scheme. It's pay-as-you-go. Money deducted from your paycheck today isn't being saved for you. It's going directly to a current retiree. You're paying for your grandmother's nice vacation. In the 1960s, there were 4 workers per retiree. Today, 1.7 workers per retiree, and it's falling. France is aging. Baby boomers are retiring in mass, and the birth rate is too low, so there's a shrinking pool of low-paid young workers, supporting a growing army of retirees, living longer than ever. The math is brutal. The system bleeds billions of euros yearly. The government has 2 choices: cut pensions, political suicide, or raise retirement age, political suicide, but slightly slower. The country is stuck in paralyzed denial. Young people know they'll probably never see a full pension. Yet they're taxed to death to pay for the elderly. This is intergenerational robbery, making the working population poorer every single day. Sixth reality, brain drain, the elite exodus. Visit Goldman Sachs London, Google Zurich, or Montreal research labs and check the badges. You'll see countless French names. France produces brilliant minds. The education system, especially elite grants, produces world-class engineers, mathematicians, and financiers. But France can't keep them. This is brain drain, and it's emptying the country of its most valuable asset, human capital. Imagine you're a top AI researcher. Option A. Stay in Paris, earn 45,000 euros yearly, pay 50% taxes, struggle for a 30 square meter apartment, wait 15 years for promotion in a rigid hierarchy. Option B. Move to California or Switzerland, earn $150,000. Pay lower taxes, live in a house, immediately lead a team. Not a difficult choice, right? 2.5 to 3 million French citizens live abroad. But this isn't a random sample, these are risk takers, entrepreneurs, scientists. When the smartest people leave, innovation leaves with them. That's why there's no French Google or French Amazon. France effectively subsidizes the world. French taxpayers fund expensive education for geniuses, then the US or UK economy reaps the benefits of their labor. A stagnant country emerges where ambition has a ceiling. Stay and accept the limit, or buy a plane ticket and break through. Getting a bit depressing. Stay with me because the final point ties everything together. If you're French watching this from London or New York, comment below. Tell us why you left. I bet it's reason number 4. 7th reality, the collapse of public services. But at least there's free healthcare. The trains are fast. You'll say that this is the saddest part. For decades, the unspoken contract was, we take half your income but give you world-class services. That contract is void. Visit a French emergency room today. Wait 10, 12, sometimes 20 hours. Rural France has medical deserts where you cannot find a GP. Doctors are retiring and the quota system deliberately kept new doctor numbers low for decades. Education system. French students were once best in math. Latest PISA rankings show France dropped to the middle with skyrocketing inequality. Teachers are underpaid and demoralized. The government hires unqualified people just to place warm bodies in classrooms. Justice system, notoriously slow and underfunded. The tragedy is that French people still pay luxury prices, high taxes, but receive budget services. When public sectors fail, the wealthy opt out. They send children to private schools, visit private clinics, hire private security. A two-tier society emerges. The rich insulate themselves from decline, while the poor and middle class remain with crumbling infrastructure. The egolite carved on town halls looks less like a promise and more like a cruel joke. 8th reality, world champions of pessimism. Economics is a country's hardware, psychology is its software, and France's software is glitching. You'd think the world's most pessimistic people live in war zones or extreme poverty areas. Wrong. Year after year, global polls show French people are the world's most pessimistic, often ranking lower than citizens of Iraq, Afghanistan, or Colombia regarding their future. This is a hidden tax on France's economy. Depression. Why? 5 weeks paid vacation, world's best cheese, high-speed trains, yet such misery. The answer: the gap between expectation and reality. French people are raised on dreams of La Grande Nation, Napoleon, de Gaulle, Enlightenment, Universal Declaration of Human Rights. They're told they're the center of the civilized world. But when they look outside, shrinking influence, language replaced by English, culture transformed by Netflix. Collective cognitive dissonance emerges. Like a fading aristocrat, still living in the castle, but unable to heat it, wearing velvet robes while shivering. This pessimism becomes self-fulfilling prophecy. Consumers don't spend, fearing the future. France has unusually high saving rates. Entrepreneurs don't start businesses because failure is a permanent stigma. Voters embrace extremism believing the system is rigged. This psychological weight is perhaps the hardest thing to fix. You can change tax laws in a week. You cannot change national mood in a decade. France is trapped in a cycle of declinism. Obsession with its own decline, making painful reforms almost impossible to rally for. 9th reality, the canary in the coal mine for the West now. Before you sit back in Chicago, London, or Toronto and laugh at the French, here's a warning. France isn't an anomaly, it's a time machine. France shows you exactly what happens when a wealthy, Western democracy runs out of road. It's a test case for a disease coming for everyone else. Look at the symptoms. Aging population. France hit the wall first, the US is 10 years behind. Then industrialization. France gutted factories faster, but the US Rust Belt tells the same story. Debt addiction. France's 110% debt is shocking, but the US runs trillion-dollar deficits in peacetime. Political polarization. The collapse of centrist parties in France, and rise of extremes. Previews the division tearing apart the US and UK. France is the laboratory, trying to maintain 20th century living standards with 21st century demographics and 19th century industrial thinking. If France collapses, if bond vigilantes attack French debt, if the EU must bail out Europe's second largest economy, it won't just be a French problem. It'll be a global financial cataclysm that like 2008, but with better wine and angrier rioters. When you look at France, don't just see a poor country, see a warning flare. Final thoughts. So is France doomed, destined to become a sprawling open-air museum where tourists throw coins at natives? Not necessarily. France has bounced back before. This country survived the 100 Years' War, the Revolution, 2 world wars, and occupation. There's resilience in the French character, a stubbornness that shouldn't be underestimated. There are signs of life. Paris's tech scene at Station F is growing. A generation of young French people tired of old dogmas who want to work, build, and disrupt. They're fighting against the system's gravitational pull. But the math is relentless. The debt is real, the aging is real, middle-class poverty is real. France currently lives on borrowed time and borrowed money. The illusion of wealth is maintained by debt and social peace by spending money the state doesn't have. The question isn't if the correction comes. The question is when. And for you, the lesson is simple. Don't let the postcard fool you. Don't let luxury brands distract you. And most importantly, look at your own country's balance sheet. Because the French disease is contagious. If you want to understand who might fall next, watch our upcoming video on Germany. Why Germany is dying quietly. It makes the French situation look like a picnic. If I shattered your Emily in Paris fantasy just a little bit today, hit that like button. It helps the algorithm more than a government subsidy. See you in the next one.